I wasn't supposed to be there. If the storm hadn't canceled the trip, none of this would have happened. That weekend was supposed to be freedom, a hiking trip with my buddy. Just the two of us. No parents, no little sister. Just tents, trails, and whatever junk food we could convince someone's mom to buy for us. Instead, thunder rolled in like it was personally sent to ruin my plans, and in the chaos of last-minute cancellations and car arrangements, I ended up stranded. My parents were already gone for the weekend, and somehow I found myself stuck at my sister's best friend's house, right in the middle of their sleepover. It was the kind of scene I normally would have avoided at all costs. A living room floor littered with throw blankets and pillows, the glow of a Disney movie paused on the big screen, bowls of popcorn and gummy worms scattered like confetti. The air smelled like nail polish remover and microwave pizza, and me. I was the one intruder. The single guy in a room full of giggling girls. I told myself I'd just keep my head down, sit in the corner, scroll my phone, wait it out until morning. But that's not how girls' sleepovers work, apparently. At first it was just the background noise. Whispers and bursts of laughter, the clatter of soda cans being opened. I tried to stay invisible, but you can't stay invisible when your sister is one of the ringleaders. "Don't just sit there," she said, grinning at me like this was the funniest thing that had ever happened. "You're part of this now." "I'm not," I muttered, though it sounded weak even to me. Her friends looked over, curious, mischievous. For sets of eyes zeroed in on me. I felt like a rabbit in the middle of a wolf pack, except the wolves were wearing oversized hoodies and fuzzy socks. One of them, Kaylee, I think, pointed a gummy worm at me like a judge handing down a sentence. "He has to play. It's a rule. No loners." "I'm not playing," I said, clutching my phone a little tighter. My voice cracked in that way it sometimes does when I try to sound confident, but really, I'm not. That's when the teasing started. "Oh, come on. Are you scared?" "Scared of what? We're just watching movies." "No, we're playing games. And you're gonna lose first." The laughter was light, not cruel, but it still made my face burn. I could feel my ears turning red, that awful heat crawling up my neck. Every time I looked away, they laughed harder, like my discomfort was its own punchline. And yet, a part of me didn't want to leave. It was easier to tell myself I stayed because of the storm, or because I didn't have anywhere else to go. But deep down, there was something else. A twitch in my chest, a pulse of curiosity, like I was standing at the edge of a pool, already wet from the rain, wondering what it would feel like to just jump in. "Fine," I said finally, tossing my phone aside. "What game?" That was all they needed. My sister clapped like she'd won a bet, and suddenly the circle shifted to make room for me. Blankets were pulled aside, a pillow shoved at me for a seat. The air felt warmer, thicker, as if by agreeing, I'd stepped through some invisible doorway. We started small. Trivia questions, stupid dares like mixing popcorn with sour candy and eating it. I tried to play it cool, pretending I was above it, but every time they laughed, I felt my shoulders loosen. Like maybe being the odd one out wasn't the worst thing. Still, there was this hum in the back of my head, low and nervous. I couldn't quite shake the feeling that I'd stumbled into something I didn't understand, that the night wasn't going to stay harmless. Because even then, before the dares turned serious, I caught the way they looked at each other. Little glances, conspiratorial smiles, like they were already planning something bigger, something meant just for me. And I didn't know it yet, but part of me was already waiting for it. The game started harmless. That's the thing. I didn't realize how fast the line between just messing around and what the hell am I doing could disappear. We kicked it off with truth or dare, of course. What else do high school girls play at sleepovers? The rules were the usual. Truth meant embarrassing confessions. Dare meant embarrassing stunts. I braced myself for the worst. But at first, it was all laughs. Truth. Who was your first crush? Dare. Eat 3 sour worms dipped in nacho cheese. Truth. Have you ever peed in a swimming pool? I laughed along with them. Even when my sister wrinkled her nose like she had dirt on me, I was just glad no one had asked me a question yet. Sitting there with them, I still felt like I was in a different country. Same language, same junk food, but a whole other culture. It didn't take long before they turned the spotlight on me. Truth or dare? Kaylee asked, her eyes gleaming like she'd been waiting all night for the chance. My stomach twisted. I could have picked truth, but I imagined them cornering me with something awful. Do you like anyone? Is it someone here? And the thought of blurting out something I didn't want to, or worse, lying, made me panic. So I said, dare. That's when I learned my first mistake. Kaylee's grin spread. Okay, dare you to eat a spoonful of pickle juice and whipped cream. The other girls groaned and laughed at once. It was gross, but doable. Better than spilling secrets. I went to the kitchen, grabbed the jar, and tried not to gag as the sour taste mixed with sweet foam on my tongue. They cheered like I'd won a medal, and for a second, I actually felt proud of myself. But the dares didn't stay harmless. They crept closer to the edge, each one daring the next to go just a little further. Dare you to prank call your crush. Dare you to walk around the block barefoot in the rain. Dare you to let us text your ex. By the time it came around to me again, I knew I was in trouble. Truth or dare? My sister asked, her voice sugary sweet. I hesitated. The air felt charged. The storm outside was hammering against the windows, but somehow the real electricity was in that circle of girls, all staring at me like they already knew what was coming. Dare, I said, my throat dry. The silence that followed wasn't normal. It wasn't the usual scrambling to think of something gross or funny. It was sharp, deliberate. They exchanged looks. Side glances, hidden smiles. My pulse quickened. Then Kaylee leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. You know, we've got that fashion show coming up at school. The others giggled. My sister tried to smother a laugh behind her hand. Kaylee's grin widened. We need practice. A model. Someone brave. Her eyes flicked to me. I dare you to be our practice model. At first I thought she was joking. I laughed, a quick, nervous sound, waiting for the punchline. But none came. They just kept staring at me, their smiles daring me as much as their words. No way, I said immediately, shaking my head. Not happening. Come on, one of them chimed in. It'll be fun. Yeah, another added. You already said dare. You can't back out now. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The idea of standing there while they dressed me up, put makeup on me. It was ridiculous, embarrassing. I'd never live it down. And yet, something twisted in my chest. A spark of curiosity? The word barely scratched the surface. It was more like a shadow I didn't want to name. I shook my head again, trying to sound firm. Nope, I'll take the punishment. Punishment? My sister's eyebrows shot up. That's not in the rules. Kaylee smirked. The punishment is double dare. The room erupted in laughter. I tried to laugh with them, but my throat was tight. I felt cornered, trapped between humiliation and something I didn't even understand. They kept pressing. Every come on chipped away at my defenses, every smile making it harder to resist. I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a game. Just one night. Still, I dragged my feet. Why me? Can't one of you just model? We already know what we look like, one of them said. The whole point is trying different looks. Yeah, my sister added, her voice teasing but firm. Don't be such a baby. Baby. That word hit harder than I wanted to admit. My ears burned again, my pride stung. I didn't want to be the one who backed down, who looked scared in front of them. And God help me. I was curious. I sighed, rubbing my face. Fine, but this is just once. Just practice. Nothing crazy. The cheer that went up around me was way too loud for what I'd agreed to. My stomach fluttered, nerves tangling with something I couldn't name. They scrambled to their feet, already plotting, already digging through bags and closets. I sat frozen on the floor, trying not to think about what I'd just agreed to, trying not to notice the way my hands were trembling. The storm outside thundered again, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was scared of the weather or of myself. They didn't march me to a runway. They herded me toward the hallway bathroom, like I was a stray they'd finally coaxed inside. The floor mat was damp from showers earlier, and the mirror over the sink had a constellation of toothpaste flecks around the edges. It looked ordinary, unmagical. I clung to that ordinariness like a rope. "Okay," Kaylee said, already elbow-deep in a canvas tote. "We'll start simple." "Simple," I echoed, though my heart was doing fast, stupid laps. The air smelled like coconut shampoo and something sharp. Makeup remover? Nail polish? I gripped the counter to steady the trembling I hoped no one saw. They moved around me with the easy choreography of people who've done this 100 times, passing things without asking, finishing each other's sentences. A cardigan appeared, gray and soft, with one button missing near the bottom. A skirt, navy, A-line not too short. A top, cream knit with a gentle scoop neck. Nothing wild, nothing that screamed costume. The ordinariness again, the thing I could maybe survive. "Shoes?" someone asked. "Low heels." Another voice answered from the hallway, triumphant. "Training wheels." They laughed, and I tried to, too. It came out thin. "Arms up," Kaylee said, not unkindly. She paused. "That okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it, even though every muscle in my shoulders felt like it was bracing for a hit that never came. I lifted my arms, and the cream top slid down over my head like a sigh. The knit skimmed my skin, cooler than I expected, the hem whispering over my stomach. The cardigan followed. Soft, the kind of worn softness that comes from being loved. It carried a faint smell, not perfume exactly, more like laundry soap and someone's room. "Okay, pants," my sister said, practical. I stared down at my jeans like they were a last line I wasn't sure I should cross. She met my eyes again, quieter this time. "You can keep them on under. Just try the skirt on top to see the length." It was a way out that wasn't a way out, and I took it gratefully, stepping into the navy fabric while keeping the jeans underneath as a barrier, a compromise with my own nerves. The skirt settled higher on my waist than I was used to, the waistband firm, not tight. It changed the way I stood, made me straighten without thinking, like my body had to find new bearings. They stepped back to assess, tilting their heads the way people do with a painting. "Good," Kaylee murmured. "See? Not scary. Yet," I muttered, and a few of them snorted. Makeup was next. That word sounded like a cliff, but the way they did it was small, almost boring, which helped. No heavy contouring, no bright colors. "We're just evening things out," my sister narrated, as if she were a calm documentary voiceover for my benefit. "Tinted moisturizer. Dab dab. See? Not a mask. Cool dots on my face, feathered away with a brush that felt like the backs of moths against my skin. Concealer beneath my eyes. Dark arcs softened, like the me I knew but better slept. Powder light a whisper. Brow gel through my eyebrows, a tiny spoolie scratching pleasantly. The sound of the wand going in and out of the tube, a little click each time, weirdly grounding. "Close," someone said, and I did, trusting for a second in a way that surprised me. A brush touched my eyelids. Something neutral, matte. The sensation was intimate in a non-scary way, like being trusted not to flinch at the eye doctor. Eyeliner didn't happen. Thank God. They agreed it might be too much for a first pass. Mascara did. A careful steadying of my chin, a soft "don't blink." "Okay, blink," and the tickle of the wand at my lashes. When I opened my eyes again, the edges of the world sharpened. My lashes felt present, like small flags catching air every time I blinked. Blush came last, a warm swirl on my cheekbones. "There you are," Kaylee said, smiling like she'd found something she'd been looking for. Tinted balm on my lips. Hibiscus. Barely colored at all, but my mouth looked finished. I pressed them together and felt a smoothness. They fussed with my hair with the same restraint. No wig, just my hair parted deeper on one side, the front coaxed into a sweep with a round brush, and a blow dryer I kept expecting to burn me. It didn't. A few pins anchored things in place. They didn't erase me. They nudged me. "Shoes!" a voice sang, returning victorious with black low heels that made my stomach drop when I saw them. They were not high, maybe 1.5 inches, but the idea of standing in them put a fizzing in my knees like soda. "Try," my sister said, softer again, the rope I kept grabbing without realizing. "If you hate it, off they go." I slid my feet in. The arch changed how my weight sat, tilting everything forward 1.5 degrees. My calves protested, small and astonished. I stood, carefully, and the room lifted by that same degree, like the horizon had been tipped. "Heel toe," someone coached. "Shorter steps." I took one step, like I was walking across a creek on slippery rocks. Then another. The shoes made a tiny sound on the tile. Tap, tap. That was satisfying and terrifying at once. A third step, and my ankle wobbled. Hands flew out around me on instinct. No one touched, but the air felt full of catchers. I steadied, breath I didn't know I was holding rushing out. "Good," said Kaylee. "See?" I nodded, afraid that if I spoke the spell would break and I'd fall. We collected in the hallway, where a door had a full-length mirror hung over it by 2 white metal hooks. The mirror had that slightly warped thrift store quality. It didn't flatter so much as confess. Maybe that was better. "Ready?" my sister asked. The question was real. I could have said no. I knew that. I looked at my reflection in the small mirror over the sink instead, a fragment of a person. The slope of a cheekbone I'd never noticed, because it had never been given a chance to be noticed. I swallowed. "Ready?" I said, and meant it, even as my chest thudded hard enough to skip. They pulled the door shut gently, and there I was, full length, me, but not the me I brought into the house, with rain in my hair. The first thing I registered was posture. The skirt and the shoes had conspired to make me stand differently. Longer through the spine, shoulders lowered 1 inch, stomach relaxed without me trying. The cardigan softened the angles I was used to seeing. My face. I don't know. It wasn't transformed so much as tuned, like someone had wiped a fogged mirror, and I could see features I'd always had but ignored because they didn't fit how I'd introduce myself to myself. My jaw looked less stubborn. My eyes, framed by the slightly darker lashes, had more room to be eyes. The lip balm gave my mouth a quiet confidence I did not possess, but appreciated borrowing. The hair, with its deeper part and pinned sweep, framed my face in a way that made me think not pretty exactly, but possible. Time did a weird thing then. The hallway noise dimmed. The storm outside stepped back. I could hear my own breath count it. 1, 2. My heart stopped flinging itself, and instead beat like a metronome. I don't think I smiled. I didn't know what expression I had on, but I know I leaned a fraction closer to the mirror without moving, like my insides had taken a step, even if my shoes didn't. Behind me, the girls were quiet. Not the trying not to laugh, quiet. Not the waiting to pounce, quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when people see a sunset better than they expected, or when a joke turns into something with teeth. "Walk to the end and back," someone said, hushed, like we were in a library. I took the steps, heel toe, the skirt brushing lightly against my jeans, still on underneath, a detail that suddenly felt both ridiculous and vital. The cardigan swayed, a soft echo around my hips. At the end of the hall I turned, too wide at first, then corrected, feeling the way the shoes encouraged a pivot from a new place in my feet. Coming back, I realized my arms had found a different swing, smaller, contained. "Okay," Kaylee breathed. "Okay." When I reached the mirror again, I didn't avoid my reflection the way I usually do when I feel self-conscious. I looked, really looked. The boy I'd been showing the world stood there. Yes, but threaded through him was something else. Some line of possibility I'd never traced with my finger until now. It didn't cancel him. It braided with him. My throat ached, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to laugh or say sorry or ask for a do-over on my entire life. I did none of those. I kept breathing. The laugh that finally came from behind me was small and real. "You did it," my sister said, and there was pride in it that I stored away like a small, warm stone. I was still staring when the quietest girl, Maya, who'd barely said 10 words all night and had the kind of voice you leaned in to hear, stepped into my peripheral vision. She wasn't looking at the outfit. She was looking at my face. "You actually look good," she said. It wasn't a compliment flung like confetti. It was an observation as neutral as stating the time, and somehow that made it land harder. The words slid under my ribs and set up residence in the space my heart had been keeping empty without telling me. Around us, the hallway pressed in and widened, like the house had breathed with me. No one giggled. Kaylee didn't race to one-up it with a joke. My sister didn't rescue me from it with a change of subject. For a moment, the night tilted its head and listened to what those 4 words had done. "You actually look good." I tried to deflect it with a shrug I didn't feel. "It's just the lighting," I said. The lighting was the same as 5 minutes ago. Maya's mouth tipped at one corner. "It's not." Heat rose in my face, but it wasn't the humiliating kind. It was like standing near a space heater in January. Too much at first, then the kind that loosens your shoulders if you let it. My hands, which had been hovering without a place to be, found the edges of the cardigan and pinched the hem, the way people do when they don't know where to put their hands. I didn't know this gesture either, but my body seemed to. "I don't." I started, then stopped. I didn't have a sentence that ended well. "It's still you," my sister said, as if she'd been assigned to translate something I couldn't. "Just another angle of you." Another angle. The phrase clicked into a slot somewhere in my chest. Not a replacement, a rotation. The storm found its voice again outside. Long, rolling thunder that you can feel in your teeth. In the bathroom, the fan clicked on by itself, a timer or a ghost. Someone's phone buzzed and went mercifully quiet without being checked. It all happened far away. Kaylee reached up gentle and adjusted a strand of my hair. Not because it was wrong, but because that's what people do when they're trying to keep their hands from saying too much. "Runway," she joked softly, offering me a ladder down if I needed it. I shook my head, not in panic this time. "Maybe later." My voice sounded like it belonged to someone who'd slept well for once. They exhaled as a group, tension they'd been hiding behind their mischief dissolving into the cotton of the hallway. The spell didn't break, it settled. We didn't take pictures. No one suggested it, and I was grateful, as if saying the moment out loud in pixels would make it less true. Instead, we let it be a thing we all witnessed and would carry away differently. I stood there longer than made sense, memorizing tiny details. How the cardigan's cuff pooled at my wrist bone. The way the skirt's fabric lifted a millimeter when I inhaled. The balance of my weight over the left heel versus the right. Every ordinary thing felt like a new language spoken just slowly enough for me to follow. When I finally stepped back, the shoes ticked on the tile, and the sound surprised me. Light even. I caught my sister's eye. She smiled, and there was that pride again, uncomplicated. "Snacks," Kaylee said brightly, the room snapping back to life, but not back to before. "Our model needs fuel." They laughed and flowed past me, the current of the night picking up again. I moved with it, careful step by careful step, the whisper tucked under my ribs like contraband that I knew I wouldn't surrender even if someone asked. "You actually look good." I didn't know what to do with it yet. I only knew I wasn't going to pretend I hadn't heard it. When the spell broke, it didn't shatter. It thinned, like mist in the morning, but I could still feel it clinging to my skin. The girls drifted back to the living room, calling for sodas, popcorn, and another movie. The storm outside had mellowed into steady rain, a low hiss against the windows. I kicked the shoes off first thing, my feet sighing in relief, But I didn't change right away. The skirt still floated against my legs. The cardigan still hugged my shoulders. Every brush of fabric reminded me I'd said yes, and they'd made me into something I hadn't known I could be. I finally ducked back into the bathroom, my reflection catching me again on the way in. I froze for a second, hand on the doorframe. The cardigan, the softened face, the hair pinned back. It was all still there, waiting. The mirror didn't laugh. Inside, I peeled the layers off piece by piece. The skirt puddled on the floor. The top slid up and over my head. Jeans, hoodie, socks. Normal again. But the normal felt borrowed. I stuffed the borrowed clothes into a pile on the counter, like they might burn me if I held them too long. The lip balm clung, though. The lashes, darker now, blinked back at me like proof. I scrubbed at my cheeks with a towel. Not hard enough to erase it all. Not sure if I wanted to. When I came back out, no one made a big deal of it. My sister passed me a blanket without looking up, as if she knew I needed to disappear for a while. The movie had already started. Some rom-com, the kind where you can miss half of it and still know how it ends. Laughter bubbled up in fits and bursts. They teased each other, stole popcorn, made up alternate lines for the characters on screen. I laughed along, but it was quieter, delayed. My mind kept drifting, snagged on the mirror image like a loose thread. I kept replaying that whisper, "You actually look good," until it stopped sounding like words and more like a pulse. Every so often, I'd tug the blanket closer around my shoulders and imagine it was the cardigan instead. I'd press my lips together and feel the gloss-smooth layer of the balm still there. My fingers itched, remembering the way the skirt had swished when I turned. Little sensory ghosts, refusing to leave me alone. Hours passed. The movie ended. Another one started. One by one, the girls surrendered to sleep, curled up in nests of pillows, soft breathing replacing laughter. My sister was the last to fade, her head lolling onto the arm of the couch, eyes fluttering shut. I should have closed mine, too, but I lay there staring at the ceiling, heart restless. The storm outside had blown itself tired, leaving only the drip, drip, drip of water from the eaves. The quiet pressed on me, and in that quiet, I gave up pretending. I slipped out from under the blanket carefully, like a thief. The living room was littered with sleeping forms. I stepped between them, heart pounding with every creak of the floorboards. The bathroom light clicked on with a hum that felt too loud. There they were. The clothes still folded on the counter where I'd left them, like they'd been waiting for me. My hand hovered. I should have gone back to bed. I should have let it be a dare, a joke, nothing more. But I couldn't. The cardigan went on first, sleeves sliding up my arms like memory. Then the skirt, this time without the jeans underneath. Just me, bare legs, the waistband snug against my waist in a way that made me inhale sharply. I smoothed it down with both hands, watching the movement in the mirror. The makeup was mostly gone, but I didn't need it. My eyes still looked different. My lips still had that faint sheen. My hair still held the shape of the part. I stood there longer than I meant to, my breath fogging the mirror. I turned side to side, small shifts, watching fabric catch the air. Each movement said something, and I didn't have the words yet to translate it. When I finally lay back down in the living room, cardigan sleeves pulled over my hands, skirt hidden beneath the blanket, I knew something I hadn't known before. It wasn't just a game. It wasn't just a storm or a canceled trip or a dare I could laugh about later. Something had changed, and it wasn't going back. I stared at the ceiling until sleep finally found me, the whisper still tucked against my ribs like it belonged there. If you want to see what happens next, subscribe and join the story. New episodes every week. Turn on the bell so you never miss what's coming next.